This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Amber Sperling, with Amber Sperling Social Work and Psychotherapy Services. Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Yeah, very happy to have you on. The audience doesn't know that we work together. We met recently, which is very cool, but I'm very passionate about your work. It's something that I've, still very green in compared to you, especially, but I do a little counseling at an addictions facility on the weekend. So psychology, philosophy, human behavior, why we do what we do absolutely fascinates me. It was one of the things that helped me become a more realized human being and like myself a bit more and start to plan out vision. And I feel like really it is one of those first steps to finding out what you're capable of, what your potential is. So I can't wait to dive in. I don't want to spoil anything. So let's start with, What is it you do? What is Amber Sperling Social Work and Psychotherapy Services?
Well, I am a registered social worker and I practice psychotherapy just like the rest of my team. So we provide psychotherapy services to the community. We have extra specialization. We've done extra training and courses and have years and years of experience working mainly with families with moms and dads. We do support for the perinatal period, very focused on perinatal, so pregnancy and postpartum therapy. We offer individual therapy, couples therapy, as well as workshops and groups.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you do have some specificity for women, but you do have male clients as well?
We do. Because we support dads as well, and we don't turn anybody away because it takes courage to reach out for support, especially when it comes to mental health. So we don't turn anybody away if we feel we are a best fit for them.
Beautiful. So say, what was it? Perinatal and?
So perinatal and trauma. I don't think I said trauma, but so pregnancy through birth and postpartum is our main specialization. So we do provide trauma therapy for birth trauma, as well as childhood trauma that's often triggered in the postpartum period.
Okay, I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit because I don't know much about that and I want to find out a bit more. Before we get into that, though, this may lead into that question, actually. We talk about a few of the same things on the show. The why is a big, important thing. I don't know if I showed you when I was with you, but I have all my main reminders on my arm. Why is one of them. What number is it? It is 13. It just says why and a question mark, because I've been encouraged to think about, why am I doing the things I'm doing? A lot of the stuff we do is just kind of automated, and we just kind of go out there and do through our nature, through whatever else our experiences. But if we can ask why we're doing our things, maybe we can figure out where we want to go in a better place, start mapping out our future a little bit and who we want to be. So the why behind our stories, our business journeys is super interesting to me. So why did you get into this? Why this business, Amber?
And why this business? Well, I mean, the why of the business and the why of why I'm in this type of business, they're connected, they overlap, but I was working for a publicly funded healthcare, which is wonderful. I had a great job and it was great. I was motivated to be able to fill more of the gaps and to be seeing the clients that energize me. I'd done additional training, certification in perinatal mental health, and realizing that some of the clients that I was seeing, I probably wasn't the best fit for them, and I wasn't as energized seeing them. Working in mental health, we have to be careful about burnout. And sometimes when we're seeing clients that aren't a good fit for the services we provide, that can lead to burnout faster. I also have a young family. So the transition into motherhood for myself, while not traumatic, from my own assessment, I realized how much it is for many, many others and wanted to be able to support through that transition. I've always been interested in the science of behavior, as you explained yourself, Jeff. And so, in the beginning, like in university, I thought I'd be a criminal profiler, studied human behavior and forensics. And then along the way, just learning more about more specifics of humans and curiosity, and wound up, opening my own business to be able to have control over what I'm doing, but also having diversity in what I do. That's the great thing about being an entrepreneur, because, you have your hands in all the different pots of what you need to do to run a business.
I love it. I love it. It's such a great story. And forensics, that's cool. But I love what you do. I think we need more of that out there. Just being a human is tough. The mind for me is pretty much limitless. I imagine there haven't been many people before their final day said, I've maxed out being a human. I've maxed out my mind. So it seems still very much like a kind of a foggy path for us, that we haven't gotten all the answers. So the more educators that are out there that can teach us about why we do what we do, the reasonings behind things, how things work, our nervous system, all that, it just makes us more empowered individuals to make better decisions and to have a greater impact. So very happy that you are out there doing what you're doing. Some things that, well, one of our questions is common myths and misconceptions about your business. And I have some from mine on the weekend, but it's not exactly the same. So let's just delve into what are some myths about what you do in particular. What are people thinking out there that maybe is not completely accurate, whereas if they're empowered with knowledge, could be, wow, this could be a great thing for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of myths and misconceptions around therapy. First of all, social workers are trained to practice psychotherapy, or we have the ability to. So I think people assume that social workers work for like Children's Aid or are going to, take your kids away. That's a myth. And so we do practice psychotherapy. There's a myth that you have to come in and you have to lay on a couch. Well, that is an option for sure. I have a couch behind me.
Very comfortable couch, I might add. I've sat on that.
It reclines, but the point is you don't have to recline. You don't have to lay down. You also don't have to share everything that's on your mind in psychotherapy. So for example, I'm trained in EMDR, which is a trauma therapy where you actually don't have to tell me what's in your mind or what you've experienced, but I have the tools to guide you through processing what happened to you without you talking about it. So again, a myth that you have to come in and say everything. There's also a misconception that you have to know what your goals are or what you need. No therapist ethically should be telling you what your goals are or what you need. However, we are equipped to ask the right questions to guide you into figuring out what that is. The other one I just want to touch on is there's a myth, I'm going to say, that you need to be quite ill or you need to have like a diagnosis or know what's wrong to access psychotherapy. Everybody, I think, could benefit from psychotherapy. Imagine like walking into a space where you could say whatever you want without judgment. I mean, that's not often available. So psychotherapy, social workers offer that to be able to, for anybody to come in. And it might just be like figuring out what your next steps are in life or complaining about your in-laws. But therapy is a lot of different things. So to not assume it's what you've seen on TV.
I love that you mentioned that so much. This is the most I've ever enjoyed my life at 37. And there have been some dark places for sure that I've been through, especially in my 20s. And those were periods of time where I didn't have help. And those dark places led me to reaching out for help. And they just stuck. I said, well, now I have a teacher for this thing. I have a guide for this journey that I'm on. My life has gotten better. Why would I remove this guide? It's like I have been a fitness professional for the last 20 years. I know a lot about nutrition. I know a lot about hypertrophy and sports and athleticism. Yet I have a fitness coach and I have a nutrition coach and I have a sleep expert to help me move through these things. And even though most of those things I could probably manage on my own, not as well as with a team. And then I have more things to think about. So I have more help now in my life than I've ever had. And I'm better than I enjoy my life better. I enjoy my life more than I ever have. So I think that is a very common misconception. It's like we use that word broken, which I don't really like, but people say I'm broken, so I need to go get fixed, or I'm ill, so I need to go get healthy. it's like, no, the greatest athletes or experts on the planet have the biggest teams. It's how they are performing at their best. So I'm really glad you cleared that up. And something that I just wanted to ask, because you said it a few times, what does psychotherapy mean?
So psychotherapy is the act of changing how we think, shifting our beliefs. Psychotherapy is a little bit different than counseling, where counseling, you can go see a counselor or coach, where they're going to give you some skills to get to the next step. Where psychotherapy, we actually like delve in a little bit deeper to those underlying beliefs. Sometimes they're schemas, just the way that you see the world. So obviously, we don't tell you, or, it's a collaborative process. So it can sound like, your therapist is going to change your mind. We do, but with you as the guide, we support you in that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you cleared that up, because from the counseling side of things, that's really what it is. I mean, we get into deep conversations for sure, but it really is about providing the skills to the next step. In many cases, I do not have the scope to do what you do, but it's therapy in beliefs and behaviors, which, I mean, those have been two of my biggest obstacles. And I would imagine if most people were being honest with themselves, they could agree to that. So why not have somebody, an objective, non-biased party who has the skills to guide you through the maze that is our mind? It's just a no-brainer for me at this point. And that's why I have a therapist and have these coaches to help me just increase the quality of my life. It's really that simple. There's no magical thing. I just want to live a better life. And therefore, I reach out to people to help me do that. So I'm really glad you cleared that up. And I hope for the people that are listening, to me, this has nothing to do with illness or anything like that. It's just increasing the quality of your life through the expertise of somebody else, because you can't know everything. You can't be highly skilled at everything. Actually, I would argue that you can really only be highly skilled at a couple of things. There's so much in the world to be skilled at. Why not let the experts help you get there? So I love that. Outside of business, Amber, what do you do for fun? What does Amber get up to on the weekends? You out there partying all night, I imagine?
Not for a while, not unless my kids are partying and I'm keeping them safe. So I love being on the water. You can definitely in the summer find me either paddleboarding or dragon boating. I coach dragon boat part-time in the summers because I love it so much. Trying to be outside more. Family just relocated to a farm, so hanging out outside with the kids. What else? I mean, I love playing on Canva, which my husband would say is work, but I find it fun. Definitely having that creative side of, creating things, whether it's just, painting with the kids or just having fun. And concerts. I like concerts. I'm excited. There's a lot of great concerts this summer. So I've got my Alanis tickets and my 30 Seconds to Mars. So are any rock bands out there. So yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the dragon boat? I was creeping you the other day, a week or two ago, and I saw some of your dragon boat stuff, and I'm like, is this the same person? And then I saw it very much is. That looked crazy intense. You had some great pictures up there, but what is dragon boating to the person like me that doesn't know what it is?
Oh, it's an amazing sport. There's a lot of parallel. I actually did a reel about this parallel between dragon boat and therapy, because a dragon boat is it's like a long canoe, for example, with 20 people, a steers person, and a drummer. There are smaller versions, but that's where I started. And so in a dragon boat, you're only as strong as your weakest paddler in terms of timing. Timing's number one. And so I started out here in Barrie, and we have some great teams. There's Dragon Boat Barrie, the club. I ended up drifting down to Toronto to compete a little bit at a higher level and went to nationals a couple times. It's a great sport because you're surrounded by 19 of your closest friends. You're out on the water in the beautiful weather, and you're getting exercise. So it's a great way to triple dip, I'll say, hitting a lot of boxes at the same time.
Beautiful. And did you say that you are the coach for this team, or are you actually rowing as well?
So I've done both. So I've been a registered certified coach or whatever the language is since 2011. So I've done a lot of community coaching. I used to coach the women's team in Barrie, and then I was coaching the Barrie Ribbons of Hope, an amazing team of breast cancer survivors. I just recently resigned from that role to be able to spend some more time with my family over the summer, but I love coaching. It's so rewarding seeing that difference from the first time the team leaves the dock in that like messy, rocky boat to the cohesion that happens in less than an hour.
Yeah, it is just incredible to see anybody or any group go from one thing to the next. You know, some people will say when you see their eyes open, or when we say it on our team, when somebody catches fire, it's just this incredible passion. I imagine you get a similar fulfillment from working with your clients, seeing people grow and change.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't see the change. It's heartwarming. It's energizing. I have trouble sometimes. I'll be sitting with a client and I see their aha moment, and you try not to smile because you're like, I saw that coming, right? But they work so hard. Like, you have to work hard and you're rewarded for that. So sometimes in therapy, it can take, a few sessions, not an hour to see that change, but it's definitely worth it. I love it.
Yeah. And I mean, from, again, very different, not nearly to your level or even in the same realm somewhat. So I don't want to put myself off like that. But when I was a client, still am now, but when I was at the beginning and I had social worker and peer support. So there was two of them. We were in group settings and one-on-one, and I was just blocked for like a year. And with some people, it seems like every time gets a little bit better. And then other people seem to be stuck until that wall just falls down completely. That's the way she described it to me. She's like, I thought you were just a broken record until you kind of kicked down that wall. And it seemed like after a year, it took a year, and then it seemed like the floodgates opened for this rapid change. So it seems like everybody's a little bit different, but she said it takes the time it takes. Do you value your life enough to stay on this path that is right for you? I knew it was right for me. That's the decision that I made, and I decided yes. So I really love that. And I love that you drag about. This is why we ask these questions. Like, so many things you can learn about people when you just ask them some questions. After the fun, we get into the hard stuff. We shine a light on hard things on this show. We talk about it all the time. I also have it tattooed on the arm. It is number 4. So it's way up there in priority. Do hard things. Why do we shine a light on hard things? I think on the social media world, we want to present ourselves, a lot of us, as our perfect version. We even edit our photos. We airbrush them. We polish it up. Sometimes it's for recognition or validation or attention or self-worth, whatever it may be. But a lot of us go on that world and don't resonate with it because we're like, why is everybody's life so perfect and mine isn't? And then you go on another channel that's washed by the masses, which is news, and it's salacious and extremely negative. So it seems like in human nature, we tend to go to these extremes, and we're taught to find the middle, find the balance, but it seems difficult for us because I don't find a lot of people there that often. So we shine a light on the hard things because I very much believe that through discomfort, we grow. And if you look at other things in nature, whether it be plants, animals, even the planet, through hard things, through some type of pressure, there's this anti-fragility there where you apply pressure and something grows. Rather than a piece of glass, you keep hitting it, it is fragile, it'll break. With us, with the mind to an extent, certainly with the body to an extent, if you apply pressure to it, some level of discomfort, it has the opportunity to grow. So we like to shine a big light on it. We like to celebrate our hard things because in many cases, I believe they're integral ingredients for the soup that is us to have a more enjoyable life. So are there any situations that you've been through that you're willing to share, trials and tribulations, hardships that maybe sucked in the moment, but when you look back now in hindsight, you say, I wouldn't remove that if I could go back? Because we get that question. Would you go through that thing again if you could turn back time? And for most of those things, for me, it would be no, because that made me me and it made me a better person. I had to learn new skills to get through that. Anything that comes to mind that you're willing to share with us?
Well, first of all, I love how you express that, because I agree. We can't grow without discomfort. And I think in the therapy world, that's like key in terms of what therapists push people. Like, it's distress tolerance. We need to learn to tolerate the distress, because we come out the other side that much stronger. So, I mean, there's definitely some examples that come to mind. I mean, I think about, so I don't know if you can see, I have a scar. I had a tumor removed from my spine when I was 17. And at the time, it's so funny when I look back now at what the difficult parts of that were for me, and then realizing for my parents that it was way worse for them. Like, looking back, and like, I was 17, I was doing what I was told. I went to all the appointments. I had the surgery. I woke up and it was hard. I couldn't drive for a few weeks. Oh my God, I was 17, right? And so, like, thinking about things from different perspective, that like, it was non-cancerous for me, but there was a period where we didn't know, right? And so the discomfort and the distress of what that was, but also reflecting back again of like what it could have been and what it was like for those around me. I also think about like previous experiences at jobs, and I won't be specific, some people would know, but I starting my career in a very, for me, very different environment, and it was difficult. And being able to recognize that, there were learnings from that, but I needed to be able to get out of there to continue to grow. So recognizing I was feeling stagnant, and that the burnout and the distress I was experiencing was fueling me to find something else, to not feel stuck. I mean, there's so many other examples, but I love being able to like reflect, as you said, like looking back, would I have changed it or taken that away? No, because it's part of who I am today. And you can't change who you are. Like, you can't take those parts out, because then you'd be different. It's like a Back to the Future mind trip thing, I think, in terms of going back in time. And even, what I experienced with my first birth experience of my daughter in postpartum, I wouldn't be where I am today with this business if it wasn't hard. If it didn't stick out, if none of that experience was a struggle, then I wouldn't have gone on to do my certification in perinatal mental health or exploring perinatal trauma, etc. So I think there's reasons why some things happen, not in necessarily a spiritual way, but I do value that difficult times lead to growth.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for someone who is, I was going to call you a practitioner of discomfort. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's certainly a part of what you do. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's necessary? Do you think it's a necessity for humans to move through discomfort? Maybe not all days, all the time, but certainly a vital ingredient.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think so. I think if we think about the things we would like to be able to do, or how we feel stuck or see other people doing things and experience jealousy or envy, usually we're already experiencing discomfort, but it's recognizing that the discomfort we're experiencing right now may be worse, sorry, than the discomfort we'll feel by pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, mm-hmm. right, to do something else. I often will say to clients, like, okay, so right now you're experiencing this degree of stress and you want to be here. So if you did this today, then you're not experiencing the distress of today anymore, right? Mm. Like, if you do the hard thing, then the hard thing is done. If you pick up the phone and make that phone call you're avoiding, then the phone call's done. Think about how much energy and distress you're experiencing avoiding, right? So that's where we get caught up in that rumination of like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Well, what if you just do it and it's done and you don't have to worry about what if anymore?
It's such an interesting thing, because I have found for myself, and it has been pointed out to me in the books and some of my mentors, that often there's this, a lot of the philosophy I follow is ancient, from a long time ago, Roman. I find a lot of good answers in those philosophers from a couple of millennia ago. But they talk about we suffer in anticipation of the event, worrying, ruminating, that anxiety that builds up before the call. Do you find that to be true, that in most cases it's the thinking about in prior to the event that causes more suffering than the actual event?
It's hard to say in general, but yes, I mean, it is definitely a consistent theme of what I see from what people experience, especially with anxiety, right? It's the unknown, but is in many cases, the unknown can be known. We're just avoiding it because we're afraid of it. So absolutely. I mean, even for myself, when it comes to anxiety, I use that philosophy of how long do I want to suffer or experience this distress if I just like rip off the Band-Aid and get it over with, right?
I love it. And then last one, and this is really, this is not on the questionnaire at all, as you probably know, but I'm taking a little time for me. If I'm going to have you on the show here, I'm sure other people would be happy to listen to it. What do you think? Like, why are we so adverse to discomfort? Especially when we've done the thing, they're like, oh man, that wasn't so bad. Like in the fitness world, everybody hates leg day. Everybody hates leg day. Actually, I would say women prefer leg day much over men for their own reasons. We won't get into there, but men really don't like leg day. So it has nothing to do with strength. It has nothing to do with that. It's more painful. I think the women in my fitness world have a better reason to do leg day than men, but it's really not that bad of a thing once it's done, and it can be so energizing, can make you feel so good. Yet it's avoided constantly to our own detriment. Is there a quick way to summarize why you believe we struggle with discomfort so much, why we seek comfort so much?
Well, I think that in a way our brains are wired to find comfort, right? Discomfort is uncomfortable. And there's a difference between a stress and a stressor and how it presents in our bodies, right? That stressor is external, stress is internal, how we experience it. And so I think we're wired to find comfort. And even if the comfort is uncomfortable, it's familiar, right? So we're wired to the familiar. That's why you see cycles of people in relationships that are very toxic, because it's familiar, right? And that's a whole other topic. But we avoid things that we avoid the unknown. So familiar is comfortable, even if it's distressing. So being able to be vulnerable, and I love Brene Brown and how she like explains being vulnerable and having that courage gets us through the discomfort to our next thing, right? Being able to thrive. But being aware of like, am I avoiding discomfort because I'm comfortable in my familiar? It's more often than not the case.
It's amazing that we fear the unknown so much. We need that certainty, and so much of life is uncertain. So for the people listening, if you got a little uncertainty ahead and you think there's a reward on the other side, just dive in. As long as it's safe, give it a try. I'm sure you will not regret it. Amber, what is one thing you wish our listeners knew about your business in particular?
I want the listeners to know that we are friendly and accessible, and that we have, in terms of accessibility, there's a diverse array of costs, I'll say. I think that's, again, a myth in therapy. So we have pay what you can therapy, all the way up to more experienced therapists like myself. We do direct billing, so you don't have to have money coming out of your pocket if you do have benefits. I think it's important to be upfront about fees and the cost of therapy. I want people to know that we're here, and if you need therapy and you recognize that maybe you're in the perinatal period and we're the best fit for what you need, reach out. If we aren't able to meet your needs or there's not perfect fit, we're going to find you someone that is. So we value connectivity, we value community. So I hope people feel comfortable to reach out and are able to commit to themselves to be able to get their needs met.
That's really what it is, isn't it? That commitment to ourselves, to give ourselves the best of ourselves. There's another line that I share with my team quite a bit from my ancients that they say, how long are you going to wait to give yourself the best of yourselves? And it seems like, at least from my experience, that we'll show up for others more than we'll show up for ourselves, which is a shame sometimes. There's so much value to be had just discovering yourself, so much potential in us. And sometimes it's just recognizing that I want more for my life and I don't know how to get more. So to make a call, and I'm glad you guys are so accessible, and I would agree, super friendly and inviting.
Thank you.
So this question I don't put on the questionnaire. I talk about my mentors all the time because they've had a huge impact on my life. I think mentorship is amazing. Somebody has just been further in life, carved that path, and helped me avoid the pitfalls that they faced, is how I look at a guide or coach or a mentor. And she came into my life in my mid-20s or so. And I was basically, she said, like, you're like a feather in the wind. Wherever life wants to throw you is where it wants to throw you. You really don't have a blueprint. Even though a lot of it is out of my control, I think it's prudent to figure out where you want to go to at least give yourself a good shot of getting there. Because landing on the island you want to get to without having any direction is like a lottery, winning a lottery. It's a lot of hope. So she encouraged me to think about my impact. What has my impact been up to this day? Like, really reflect on it. A lot of things I wasn't proud of at 24, 25. What do you want your impact to be today? Because you don't know if you'll be here tomorrow. And then, if you are here tomorrow and many days to come, what do you want your impact to be going forward? So I always ask the guests on the show, what do you want your impact to be? For some people, I say on the world, and they think that's too big. So I say family, community, business, the world, although I would argue that they're one and the same. But what do you want your impact to be, Amber?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's interesting. I would like to bring perinatal mental health to the forefront. I'd like it to not be an added piece of, oh yeah, what about that? I'd like there to be more accessible and streamlined, effective treatments for perinatal mental health for moms specifically. I'm very passionate about women who have experienced transition and are feeling lost or overwhelmed. So I would like that to be something where it's always going to happen, but where there's more direction on what to do. And because of my passion for the perinatal period, I'd also love to see that new NICU built at RVH. A little plug there. As a member of the Foundation Cabinet, the NICU is so small and out of date. I would love to be able to have a piece of making that happen, not for my name, but to see, that whoever down the road has a baby that needs that extra care, they're able to have privacy and space and to be well supported with, best technology resources, human resources, as well as their mental health. So definitely I want to have that impact. And of course, for my family, I want my kids to be able to see like how important community is and that like what a role it is in my life. I know that was really important for me growing up, seeing the role that my parents played in the community and my dad still does. So I think that's really important for me that they see that they're part of something bigger, that they do belong, even when you feel like you don't. You always do, and being able to contribute.
I love it. What is a NICU?
The neonatal intensive care unit. So where
Okay.
babies are, I was going to say housed, where babies go when they need extra care postpartum, like when they're born, after they're born. So some babies are there for a few days, some much longer. I have an intern here in the other room. I should get her to talk because she works there. But yeah, so it's very tiny right now, 35 square feet for a family with a brand new baby, with a newborn being treated. So think about it. You're learning to breastfeed. You're learning to be a parent. 35 square feet, but it's open. There's no walls. It's just, if you want a tour, that can happen. But yeah, it's out of date. It's not the most effective care that we can be offering our community in this day and age.
And then you brought up that word again. And I have to ask, what does community mean to you?
Community is belonging. Community is not feeling alone, recognizing that you are part of something bigger. Community is connection, collaboration. Community is growth, that there is always a next step, not being stagnant. Support. I mean, I could go on, but I think we can never be our best without community, and community can never be the best that it can be without people committing to it.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Amber, how can our listeners find out more about you? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at amber.sperling.rsw or our website, which is ambersperling.ca. We have a phone number, though it's not used often, 249-487-0760, or you can email info@ambersperling.ca.
Beautiful. Amber, it's just been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for allowing me to pick your brain today. I love to do that. And sometimes I can be a little invasive because I'm kind of greedy when it comes to that. I'm so fascinated by these things. And I think your work is fascinating. I think your work is necessary. And then to align it in the roots where your mission comes from, the impact you're trying to create, attaching it to community, and helping people become parents. I don't know. Is there anything more important than raising and growing a human being? I don't think so. I'm not a parent yet, but I mean, it's incredible that we just think is normal, that we can just create another human. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a blast talking to you.
You as well. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.